Welcome back. We're going to install some braided hoses to our power steering pump. I'm making this video because I used to have a lot of issues with braided hoses, and now that I've figured out the easiest way to do it, I figured I'd share it with you guys. There's several different methods. I like using zip ties. I find that to be the easiest way. It helps keep those lines clean, and it helps you get the attachments over that braided hose without it flaring out and making a mess. I've tried the taping it method, I've tried other methods, but zip ties work the best. It helps hold the braid together. So if I zip tie around it, make it nice and tight, it keeps that braid nice and tight, so it keeps it from separating. And what it allows you to do is to leave the zip tie on. You cut off your excess after you've measured 2, 3, 4 times. You measure as many times as you have to. I like to take a regular rubber hose and I measure it the length I want, and then I lay it against my braided hose, and that's where I lay my zip tie. Now, once you cut this, you leave that zip tie on there, and then you'll slide over your fitting, right? You unscrew your fitting. You're going to slide it over it, sliding that zip tie back. You can cut the zip tie later, but the important thing is to get over that braid before it flares out. It's fine if it flares out in this cap or the whatever you want to call this, the collar, but we don't want to have it flare out before we get it installed. So I'll show you guys how to do that, but before we do, I want to show you guys this radiator bot. It's a 2-core radiator. The days of just going out and buying a 4-core radiator are behind me now. I've gotten a little educated, and I used to just think that if I just went with a 4-core radiator, it would solve my coolant issues. This 2-core, it's only a 2-core, but they're 1.25 inches. So the cores are 1.25 inches, and that's, I think the standard is usually 5/8. So when you get a 4-core, it's 4 5/8 cores compared to a 2-core with 1.25 cores. The 2-core will actually hold more. So this is going to solve our coolant issues, and it was actually pretty reasonable. The maker of this is, well, you know what? Let's go check it out. Again, it's kind of dark out here, but the maker of this is Cold Case. I don't know if you can make it out, but it's a beautiful radiator, and it came with the fan setup and the shroud, which I needed. I haven't ran the wires yet, but there's tons of room on this engine. Of course, I've slid this engine back just a little bit, but if you look inside this radiator, you'll see what I'm talking about. Those cores are massive. They're huge, and they run the length of the radiator. They run all the way down rather than vertical like I'm normally used to. So again, now that I got all my tools out, let's get to this braided hose and I'll show you guys how it's done. This is Eddie Motorsports power steering line kit. It comes with everything you need for our S-Drive kit, right, to plumb in our plastic reservoir to the gearbox itself, or to the steering gearbox. Now, the smaller line here is actually our high pressure line. And then the larger line is just a return line. It's a low pressure line. And what you want to do again is take a rubber hose, and you're going to use your rubber hose to make a template so you get the length right the first time. And you want to be sure it's right. You want a little bit of play in there because the engine does move. So you do want it to have some flex. So like I said, if you can't, before you cut anything, if you can't get this, this is the low side, if you can't get this collar around, which we can't without making a mess, it won't go all the way through. We'll fix that by taking the zip ties, right? So we'll take it to the length we want it to be, and if you want to go just a little bit over, that's good, but if you're leaving yourself a little bit of flex in this line anyway, you should be just fine. So we're going to take our zip ties, we're going to wrap it around the hose, pull it nice and tight. If this is the line we want, we're going to cut right on the other side. We can take another zip tie and put it on the other side and cut between the lines. I'm going to use an air tool to do this. I'm just using a cutoff wheel to make my cut. Wear safety glasses, of course. And make sure you have a shield around your cutoff wheel. Don't be like me. So we're going to make our cut. We're going to cut all the way through. So if you guys have any loose strands, we can cut those back. It look like just 1 or 2. We're going to take this collar. We're going to slide it in place while twisting this zip tie back. There you go, and we're right at the end. Of course you can cut the zip tie off, no issues, and we're done. We can put this on, if this was the length we needed it, we could put this on and have no issues. The way this one works is the fitting actually slides on the inside of the, I believe this is a PVC, a flexible PVC type of material. And this is actually going to slide on the inside, but the bushing slides around the outside and underneath the braided hose. There's a bushing in here, and it's got a little, it's got rings on it to help compress that and hold that material, whether it's PVC or whatever it is. It helps compress that material around the fitting itself to keep it from coming loose under pressure, so when the engine's running. And again, that just slides underneath the braided hoses, just like that, right? But we'll push it on all at once, and then the other one goes inside of it. So again, the collar will be over here. We're going to push it down and twist it in as far as we can until it bottoms out, and then we'll tighten this collar down, and that's what's going to compress and give it that bite. This will be done the same way. Again, I want to get this collar on first before I go trying to flare this end on and push it in. I want to get that collar on first. I'll put my zip ties down, cut it to the length I want it, and again, I'll shove this all in together. It doesn't matter if you want to do this bushing first, you can do the bushing first, and the fitting itself will help shove it in there the rest of the way, using a twist in motion. I also use Vaseline on these, and that helps to get it down in there. And once you clamp it down, you're not going to have any issues anyway. Like I said, this has little teeth in it. It's got 2 rings in it that help really bite down on that PVC material or whatever it is. It's all compression fittings, except for that return line from the power steering pump to the steering gearbox itself. Ours is it's low pressure, so it just clamps right onto the plastic reservoir. Again, I hope this helps, and I know I used to really struggle with braided hoses, so that's why I figured I'd make the video. Good luck!